I do think that we need to address what is going on right now. And I'm going to ask you, if you are super in support of what's going on this week and this weekend, to make sure that you're filtering it through the Word and through what God is saying. And if you're super opposed to it, I'm going to ask you today to make sure that you're filtering it through the Word and through what God is saying. Right? I mean, this is not about picking sides. This is not about, well, I think it's stupid or I think it's awesome or whatever. It is, what is God saying about it? We had people, say to us, well, like, yay for you supporting the truckers. It's not about that. I just got to say, it's not about that. From my perspective, what I am supporting right now is the sound that I hear in the Spirit. It's the sound that's coming out. But we have to listen to the sound beneath the sound. Different people say, well, are we actually expecting that the truckers, that sound is actually activating something for the church? Yeah, it is. Biblically speaking, there is precedent for this. There are times when there is a sound that has nothing to do with the people of God, but the people of God are listening for the sound. And so, for instance, when David was like, do I go up and fight the Philistines? And God said, yes, but wait until you hear the sound of marching in the treetops. Wait until you hear the sound. And I would bet for the average person standing around David that day, they were like, it's windy. You are a freak. Like, it's just windy. The trees are moving. David's like, no, I hear the sound of marching. There's a sound in the sound. Why is it that God said to Gideon, he's like, you need to make sure that when you go in, you break those pots and you shout and you make a declaration. There was a sound that was there. And when that sound was activated, there was a self-destruction in the enemy camp. But what is the sound that he's releasing? I know a bunch of you in this house already got this word, but does the walls of Jericho mean anything to you? Last night we got home after our part of the convoy ended, and we went home and we sat in our house, windows closed, doors closed, and listened to the sound for another hour and a half. We're like, the whole city is honking. Somebody in our church commented on my post. She's like, I actually honked so much I broke my honker on my car. Okay, what is it about the horn? What is the sound? And we're going to get into this today. This is very exciting. Starting at verse 13, it says, now when Joshua was by Jericho, he looked up, and behold, a man was standing opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said, are you for us or for our adversaries? And he said, no. Honestly, there are times when it's like, is God with the people who are protesting? Is God with the people who are not protesting? What's going on here? No. Why? Why is there this thing? There's this space that, like, well, pick a team, pick a side. There's a third option. No, but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have come. In other words, I'm not really for your agenda. I'm not really for their agenda. I'm for God's agenda. God's got a plan. There is a God timetable, there's a God timeline, and there's a God plan. The commander of the army with the sword out was about to enforce God's plan. And whoever should get on board with God's plan would experience this. No, but as the commander of the army of the Lord, I have come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped, and said to him, what does my Lord say to his servant? Then the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, take your sandal off your foot, for the place where you stand is holy. And Joshua did so. I believe that sentence right there is our key right now. It is acknowledging there's a sound being released. There is a sound of unity across the nation right now that we haven't heard in the longest of times. There's a sound of, and I know not everybody's in it, but it's hanging there. What does my Lord say to his servant? In other words, I can hear that something's going on, and instead of getting all excited and, I'm going to buy the t-shirt and get all on board on one thing and then find out maybe it wasn't that great, and maybe there's some people in there that I'm not wanting to ally myself with, it's, God, what do you have to say to me? I can see that you're here. I can see that you have a plan. What do you have to say to me about this? It is personal. And I'm just telling you that the concept of dividing into factions is so of the devil. We have to resist it with everything that we are and everything that we have. There is a place of power in the place of unity. And the more divided we are, the more the enemy can pick off the weak, and the more he can access and utilize the strong for his purposes. And we must pursue the love of God, the choice to stand together as one according to God's plan and God's purposes. We have an assignment from heaven, and if we get all off bent into, I think this, well, I think this, well, I think this, we are wrong. It's not about my side, your side. It's his side. What does he want to do? Yesterday, what caught my heart is this flag. Across our city was this flag, and people waving it, people having it on their vehicles, people all over the city waving this, the red and the white, the blood and the forgiveness of Jesus Christ. This leaf, the healing for the nations. We are in the year 2022. You know where this comes from, right? Revelations 22:2, the leaf of the tree shall be for the healing of the nations. This is Canada's year. This is Canada's year. This is our time, but we have been so dysfunctional and so broken. What's it take to rally a people to stand for righteousness? Joshua 6, verse 3-5. You shall march around the city, all you men of war. You shall go around the city once, and this you shall do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram horns before the ark. But on the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow their trumpets. And it shall come to pass when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound, of the trumpet, that all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat. And then you people shall go up, every man straight before him. As they're marching around, we know that the word tells us that everywhere the sole of your foot goes, I have given you. This is a promise to Abraham. It's a promise God's given to us. Our territory is that which we stand upon. We have gone through a season of praying and prayer walks, and not a lot has happened. Can you imagine being those guys walking around the city and not a lot is happening except you're getting spit on from above? It just feels like everything's coming against you. But day 7, everything changes. Now again, I got to be really careful with this one, because we are not for or against any particular governmental party. But I will say what God is for is righteousness, right? Righteous rule. And so our current government, over the last season, we have passed more purely diabolical, sinful, evil laws than we have in the 20 years prior. Like sick, twisted things that come down to the very core of the sanctity of life, of honoring faith, of honoring the things that God honors, of honoring what the things of the word say. Literally every pastor who steps on a stage right now is this close to being arrested due to the most recent law that passed, Bill C-4. This has never happened before. Well, if you do the math, we have had our current government in place for 6 years. We are now in the 7th year. So I'm not saying who we should vote for or whatever. Again, it's not about a party. It's about the enemy has used this season to push his agenda, to push the stuff that's going on. If you're into, studying Jewish packaging, there's a book called The Mystery of the Shemitah. Excellent book by Jonathan Cahn. And in there, he talks about how, according to biblical history, every 7th year is a year of rest for the land. But honestly, every 7 years in history, there has been some major upset of what's gone on in world systems. And it basically, prophetically, is a time when we have the choice to respond to God or not. And there's either a time of judgment or there's a time of blessing, but it has everything to do with our hearts before God. So the last Shemitah year fell in fall of 2015, which was when this government was elected. This next Shemitah year comes to a head fall of this year. There will either be an opening of blessing or there will be an opening of judgment. That's pretty intense. So we as the church have a responsibility to hear the sound and to operate on it. So let's go back to what this says now. It says, when the wall comes down, and then the final sentence there, and the people shall go up, every man straight before him. Every man straight before him, meaning God is watching my choices. God is watching your choices. Every man went up straight before him. Here's the thing that happens when the walls come down. We're all like, yay, the walls come down. Do you know what happens when the walls come down? The enemy that was contained on the inside is now coming straight at you. So let the walls come down. Yeah, get your sword out. Because seriously, now you were sitting on the other side of a big wall, and now it's on. So we don't want the walls to come down until we are ready to fight. Honestly, if we are in the position to do what God's called us to do, this is where we see change. But we have to come in and pursue. Gideon, the story of Gideon, the shouts came, the jars broke, and then they went in and pursued. Like there's got to be a follow through. And this is why we're talking about this today. We do not sit around and watch our TVs and go, oh, I really hope the Prime Minister comes out and talks to the truckers. Who cares? I gotta be honest, who cares? What I care about is, what are the church gonna do about this right now? There is a call to action. Are we being activated? Are we prepared to stand in righteousness? Are we prepared to get on our knees? Are we prepared to live the kingdom? Are we prepared to go out and speak truth and walk in justice and love the unlovely and care for those that need it and do the work of the kingdom? Are we ready? So now we need to stay on point and stay on what our assignment is. We need to cry out for righteousness. We need to cry out for justice. We need to declare the wisdom of God. We need to step up and be ready to serve wherever we can serve, to love wherever we can love, to be present. We have to make sure that we are not, it makes me sick. I'm just going to say this, and if you're offended, I don't care. But honestly, the fact that there are churches using Vax passes to decide who gets to come in the building, that is sick. That is sick. Jesus went and touched the lepers and healed them. This tells me that my kingdom assignment to go into all the world, to preach the gospel, to lay hands on the sick, to cast out demons, it's of a different kingdom. And I've heard a lot of people say recently, not so much in this crowd, but in some, that it's sick to just be all about your rights and freedoms. Okay, not going to get into that, but I will say that the opening sentence on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms for Canada says, whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God. That's the opening sentence. That's the preamble to why we have the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that we have, is because we recognize the supremacy of God. We do our best to obey the laws of the land, but ultimately, even the laws of this land should be subject to the laws of God. While you're in this realm, you are part of a kingdom that's outside of this that goes forever. You know, the word tells us that the wisdom of God is foolishness to those that don't know him yet. So, you know, people, if I stand for what is right in God's eyes, people get upset with me. Suck it up. They can't see it. They can't see it. That's okay. You're not worried about man's approval. You're worried about God's well done. So be okay with the fact that sometimes people don't like you. People don't agree with you. That's okay. Jesus said to expect it, actually. This is what the kingdom means. You became a new citizen of a different kingdom. That's a big deal. I don't really care how much you like this church. I really hope you do, though. But I hope you feel welcomed. I hope you feel part of it. However, I care way more. I care way more that you understand that the King of Glory came to earth to die, to lay his life down, to be killed on a cruel cross, to sacrifice himself because he wanted to translate you from one kingdom to another. He wanted to deliver you from the power of darkness and bring you into the kingdom of light. He wanted you to be free. We know that we're of God. We're in this kingdom. But the whole world lies under the sway of the wicked one. The word here is cosmos, and it means the orderly arrangement or the governing influence. So we know that around us, we're of God, but everywhere around us, there is a governing influence of the wicked one. Why would people do this? How could they do this to one another? Why can't they see? Why don't they understand? How could they be so cruel? How could they be so stupid? What's the matter with them? Well, they are under the governing influence. Guess whose job it is to help them out of that? When you hear the sound, when the walls come down, each man should go up straight ahead of him. You've got an assignment. The sound has been released. The prince of the power of the air has been challenged in the spirit. And children of God, you have an assignment. This is not about who meets with the truckers in Ottawa. You have an assignment. You need to go straight up into the thing that's in front of you, and you proclaim the kingdom of God. Who did God send Jesus? Who did the Father send Jesus to minister to running straight out of the gate? You don't see him looking for any kind of, could we gather together the top 10 most influential people of the city because I need to have a meeting with them? Where did he preach the gospel of the kingdom? To the lowest, to the broken, to the hurting, to the damaged. If we're looking over here like something's got to happen up there, something's got to happen up there, my job, your job is to go straight up to what is right in front of me. There is a place to live the kingdom of God right in front of you. There is a person that needs to hear how loved they are by God. There is a person that needs you to lay hands upon the sick and see them healed. There is a person who needs to see a demon cast out. There is a person who needs to see the love of God in the flesh. We don't worry about how much influence we have in the earthly realm. We worry about who the Father has sent us to minister to, and we announce the kingdom of God. There's not a person here who's not worthy to be here. Do you know that? There's not a person here who is worthy to be here. We're all just invited to this party that we can't believe we got the ticket for. We all showed up and we're in our rags, and Jesus said, I'm going to give you a robe of righteousness. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about where you've come from. Don't worry about what you're wearing. Don't worry about what you've been through. I'm giving you a hope and a future and an expected end. See, this is the kingdom. The kingdom of God is within you. It's amongst you. You carry it.